Here is what has been written about what really happened in Libya. This is a collection of my own memories and from people that spoke to me from Libya. When I first arrived in Benghazi, it was really beautiful. The people were well off and everything was free and services were all good. I have lived in Europe, so I could tell that life was good and the people happy. There was a financial boom in the Benghazi area and in east of Libya in general, creating a sudden increase in the population of Egyptian migrants. Companies were hiring foreign labor without restrictions, mainly from Egypt. Also some migrants from Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. It was these same laborers that later became the foot soldiers for the so-called revolution. The companies hiring them turned out to be the very same government officials, Mustafa Abd Jalil and Mahmoud Jibril, and much later help came from a general named Abd Fattah Yunus. This is how it all happened in the Benghazi Revolution. Entire neighborhoods were killed, and then the foreign laborers would move into these now empty neighborhoods in Benghazi. And it turned out that many of the laborers were well trained in fighting and had intended from the beginning to fight. Using their large force of foreign laborers and small groups of tribal loyalists, and with help from General Abd Fattah Yunus, they overpowered the majority of the people that clearly were with Muammar Gaddafi. Many Egyptians that fled the war confirm that those killing the people were in fact Egyptians, as they could easily guess by their accent, and of course they would know best, and it's quite easy to distinguish a Libyan from an Egyptian. Tripoli. Tripoli was well defended, and it was impossible for the NTC rebels or NATO to ever capture the city. Not even in 2 years would it have been possible. But yet what happened? There were many different events floated, but the truth was simple. The city was betrayed by 2 generals. They gave coordinates for everything NATO needed to bomb. They also sent small squadrons of men around the city that sprayed chemicals that they received from NATO. At the port, another small group of men received NATO's troops from the UK and France and the USA and Qatar and the UAE and Jordan and Kuwait. The rebels initially arrived from the sea along with these NATO special forces. The 2 generals gave coordinates of all the government officials, then a group of rebels that were sleeper cells, and NATO special forces together started to hunt for the 300 government officials to find them and kill them. One general was arrested and killed by his own soldiers. After capturing him, they learned of all the traitor plans. They quickly acted and saved a lot of the 300 government officials. They fought in the streets against NATO special forces and rebels and traitors working for these generals, and they managed to defend much of the city. But the large use of chemical weapons and helicopters and NATO jets while the chaos from within was going on forced them to retreat and regroup and re-establish a command center with new generals. The army of Libya is loyal to Gaddafi. 80% of the people of Libya are loyal to Gaddafi. Now Misrata. Gaddafi gave all Libyans wealth and development, but the people of Misrata benefited from lucrative deals. Some individuals from Misrata became rich businessmen, and they started making deals with tribes in Algeria, Berber tribes, and they gave them hundreds of millions in promises of all assets of the city and passports, etc. That's the reasons why blacks were being killed in the city, and all Gaddafi supporters, in order to make peace for the Algerian Berber fighters planning to move their families there. Rich Misrata businessmen also gained backup from Misrata of thousands of Egyptians pouring into the city from Benghazi, where they would come by sea. Each fighter from Egypt would be paid $10,000. Misrata rich businessmen themselves had small groups of loyalists. The people of Misrata all fled to the areas controlled by Gaddafi, fleeing from foreign fighters. There was a very powerful army of Libya in Misrata that fought off all these forces and survived NATO airstrikes. It was intended that Misrata would begin the revolution, but because generals stationed at Misrata refused to betray the people of Libya, the plan failed. So the rebels started the revolution at Benghazi, with the help of Abd Fattah Yunus from Benghazi. Berbers from Zintan received training in Tunisia, in UN camps, where they would pretend to be seeking free food and other advantages. In reality, they were giving away coordinates and planning the movement of the Algerian Berbers into Misrata. Forces from the UK, France, the USA, UAE, and Qatar were stationed there and were helping plan the process. Now, this was added afterwards. 70% of Zintan Berbers have now joined the Green Resistance. Many of the Berbers and their tribal leaders have now joined Gaddafi once more. The entire process to attack Libya was planned with detail and with high treason to the Libyan people. The media was part of the process to remove the malicious nature of the invasion. Many tribes are with Gaddafi, but some tribes hesitated and did not act quick enough. But as events continued, they suffered the most for not acting quickly enough. Today all Libyans are convinced, some sooner than others, that they must resist this evil invasion. The rebels have mass raped and mass looted homes. Horrible crimes have been committed. People have been locked in freezers, to be taken out and tortured one by one. Entire villages wiped out and buried as if they never existed. NATO has carpet-bombed hospitals and schools and all services, including water tanks and electricity plants. NATO focused all its fire on civilian protests that are pro-Gaddafi. NATO's special forces have beheaded Libyans and walked, brandishing their heads for all to see. The large amount of bloodshed has not made the people of Libya afraid. In fact, it made them understand the very nature of this evil operation and strengthened their resolve to resist it.